Greetings and welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Don Cardenas, and today I'm joined once again by the amazingly talented Hound. Fel has an awesome new book coming out from Boom Studios called SIR, and I had a chance to read it a little bit early, and it is full of all the things that Fel does great, even greater now. And I can't wait to talk about it, but first and foremost, Fel, thank you for coming on the show again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here again. I think this is my third time. Maybe?
Yeah. I was thinking like, well, I know when was Fel last on? I'm like, well, you're on the last episode, I think last August, I think it was, with Natasha and Michelle, and then you were on solo before. So I'm like, wow, third time already. I'm like, that's.
It just speaks to how much I love the show.
Well, it's also how much we love having you on, how much we love your work. So, SIR, it looks really, really cool. Motorcycle jousting under the world you've put this in already is a cool concept, but like the world you put it in and everything that's going on in this first issue, everything that's being set up is really, really fun. And I definitely want to talk about that a whole bunch. But first, you know the rules. Comics, Coffee, Metal. What are you digging right now?
All right, so I'm not a huge coffee drinker, as you know, but I do enjoy drinking tea. I always enjoy my chamomile lemon tea in the mornings. I was sick for a month, like last month, so I've been sort of binging on that like honey lemon tea goodness. But even on its own, when I'm not sick, it does taste pretty good. So, and comics, what am I reading? I'm still reading all the old stuff that I think I spoke about last year. Like, I'm going to take this moment again just to shout about My Dear Lass, aka Peach Comic. Still obsessed with it. Still a great slow burn webcomic. But I've also been reading. Let me look at my bookshelf. What have I been reading? I have been reading. So I recently picked up Volume 1 of Covenant, which is based on a webcomic by Explodekid. It's about hot priests fighting hot demons. And yeah, that Volume 1 just came out from Oni Press, and I'm still in love with that comic. It's a fantastic read. I can't wait to pick up the rest of the books. And music-wise, I've been listening to a lot of anime soundtracks, but I've also been sort of listening to a lot of like really sort of moody, I don't even know how you describe it, really like electro pop folk. There's like a band, it's like a local band, it's called Foxes in Fiction. It's really just one guy making like random tunes, but they're all really sad and moody, and I don't know why, I've just been really digging it. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been listening to lately. Cool.
And yeah, as you know, it doesn't have to be all coffee, it doesn't have to be all comic or metal. It has to be comics, some comics, just a little bit at least. But especially as someone who creates them, but also, we fall into the trap of like, we're busy making them, we don't get a ton of time to actually read them and all that. But it's definitely always interesting to hear what you're reading and all that, because a lot of the manga type stuff or just the non, because I think I read mostly independent comics these days, but there's it goes so deep that you can't fully get it all. So hearing what everyone else is reading, like I have this ever growing list of just all these titles that people I trust their taste are just telling me this is really good, this is really good. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. So I'm really hoping that in the next few months I'm gonna get a lot more reading time in, because my second kid is going to be going into full-time school, so I'll have more time during the day to actually get work done. So then at night I could, spend time with my wife and enjoy reading. Yes, so I'm looking forward to knock down on my read list. So I always appreciate when people have cool things to bring to the table here. I normally don't start off so fast with like Twitter questions, but we got so many. Everyone is excited to ask you a question, and I'm sure some of the people who have actually seen the advanced PDF of SIR are also very excited to talk about it. So we'll start now. We won't do them all right now, but we'll pepper in some. Also, mainly just because our mutual bud Jared Luan, he's kind of doing my job for me, because I had this question in mind and he's asking it. So this is not a cop out on my end, Jared. Just great minds think alike, I guess. But it's his question is, so it's clear that Fell's style has elevated or advanced. I'm curious if this came about when approaching SIR, or if it was just kind of a natural evolution and SIR is our first real glimpse of it.
Yeah, so first of all, I've been kind of lazy and I've just been calling it Sir. You can call it SIR, but
Okay.
if you want to be lazy, you can just call it Sir. Yeah, it's
Okay.
whatever rolls off the tongue. But this, my style evolution, it's a bit of, I guess, a long story. Basically, I've always loved painterly styles. I've always wanted to learn how to paint. And when I was making Commander Rao and We Love You, it was like my quasi attempts to have something more painterly, even though I didn't really know how to paint because it's something I never really learned. And then I decided that I really wasn't happy with my style and I wanted it to look more the way I wanted it to. So I actually took a month off trying to teach myself how to paint. I did a lot of value studies. And what I realized trying to teach myself how to paint is that I am not built for it. It requires a lot of patience. And I just don't think my brain works that way. And it was just like me accepting, okay, this is like not going to work out. But what did end up happening is that going back to Peach Comic or My Dear Lass, this is like beautiful, beautiful Chinese webcomic. And it has sort of like a watercolor style to it, but also uses like very clean line art. And it was just like huge for me because I thought it was so beautiful and it was what I wanted my style to be. So after seeing that, I was like, maybe I could sort of like apply the stuff that I learned from trying to learn how to paint into like a more simplified style where I can get pages done faster, where it's like more focused just on the line work and I don't have to worry about rendering anything. I could just like cell shade. So I took a couple months just to like practice and sort of figure out that style. And then once I kind of broke through and got the hang of it, I was like, wow, this looks so much better than what I was doing before. And also like, I've been wanting to make a YA book for a really long time. So I've been trying to push myself towards having a more like typical YA style that could be like marketed in that way. I don't think my old style could have done it. So it was just kind of like a mix of things that all fell into the same place at the same time. And it just ended up working out where it's like, oh, I got to pitch a YA comic. And oh, my style actually looks like it could be a YA comic now.
Yeah, I remember when you were starting to post some images and stuff like that, and you're just kind of just refining things a bit and taking that back, because I think your previous work looked fantastic, and though I do empathize with the idea of like, I want it to look like this, and then you work so hard to get it to look like this, and then you're like, I don't like doing this. What am I going to do? And I'm glad that's something that you took time to figure out and all that, because I think that's a big step for any artist. It's just like the idea of like getting hung up on what's my style. It's a pitfall we all fall into, no matter your level or whatever, and just kind of just diving into like, here's what I want it to look like, and then just having the emotional maturity to say, nah, I don't like it. This is not for me. But then you take it back and you find yourself like in a much happier, confident place. And I think that really comes through in Sir, because I'm going to be lazy and say Sir. And I think it really comes through. And the idea of, you know, the coloring and approaching it in more of a YA friendly thing is great, because I read the book. I didn't realize it was geared towards YA at all. So it didn't read that way, you know, to me at all, which is great, because that, you know, I didn't feel like I was like, this needs to be more mature, this needs to be more grown up or whatever. No, it was just a solid, good story. Got great setup for an interesting world, interesting characters, and I think that's the best kind of stuff. That's if it's going to be classified under YA. I don't know if that's the official classification Boom and all that's going for, but if that's what it is, I think that's the kind of like the best stuff, because it's kids reading it, younger readers reading it. They're not going to feel like they're getting something watered down. You know, they're just getting a good comic, and that's what I got when I was growing up. And you know, maybe not good comics. It was mostly the '90s. So, but you know, my long-winded way of saying like it looks like your experiment and your work in doing that really paid off, And I'm glad to see that you're feeling very confident in the work, because it is coming across as much more, I don't want to say mature, because that feels like I would be, saying something negative about your previous work, which I'm definitely not saying. It just, yeah, I guess confident is the word to say. Like, your work is coming across more confident. Your storytelling was always great, and seeing you continue to push that and maybe not be as crazy as Commander Rao guy, and your other work, even though as fun as that was, taking it here and still keeping it interesting, still having interesting layouts, still not just being stuck on a grid and stuff like that, but also keeping it clear with trying to be interesting and all that. And I really respect that, because that's, I think, one of the hardest things for artists to like really just ingest and get down is the way you approach like your layouts and storytelling with this book. Was a real conscious effort to make it less, I guess, experimental than like Rao or And We Love You and all that, or was it just like felt natural, just this is the way the story is going to be told?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for all the kind words you just said. It means a lot. With the layouts, I like in Commander Round and We Love You, I always say I'm like very heavily inspired by J.H. Williams, who's like a very amazing experimental like layout visual artist. So in some ways, like my early work, especially Commander Round and We Love You, I was really trying to push that and sort of like try to see what I was capable of. The only thing about stuff like Commander Round and We Love You with those layouts is that it took a lot of brain power, and it took a lot of effort to be able to like get it the way it is. And as you said, I think my work comes across the page more confidently now, but at the same time, I think with Sir, because it is my first, I guess, like bigger long form project, I felt like in some ways I was trying to like scale back some things, so it's not as crazy. But I think what it is that it's functional. And one of my like I heard like some advice from some peers being like, even though if you want to survive in this industry and you don't want to burn out, it's very hard to put like 100% effort and still make all these deadlines, because comics are so much work and you have to draw so much. So what I've been trying to do is just like, sometimes I can't put in 100% all the time, but I have like certain pages where I will do like close to 100% just to like balance it out and make myself feel better. So I think that's kind of the case with Sir, where it's like, you have some pages where when there's like less action going on, I can sort of dial it back a bit and just like, make something functional. But then there are times where I allow myself to pop off, like in those fight scenes. So for me, I told myself that for every issue, I'm going to try to give myself 2 pages where I can just like pop off and do something really fun with the layouts. So we have like the spread in issue 1. We've got like some more fun layouts in issue 2, and then I think into some more spreads in later issues. And that's how I've been kind of, I guess, balancing the visual storytelling and experimental aspects of it.
Well, it's also a very smart move to do it that way, because you're giving the reader a chance to like appreciate those bigger things more. Because like you said, this is like long form. It's not, you're going over 4 issues here. So like, with Rao and We Love You, like it's like balls to the wall. Let's go, and do this, which is perfect. It matched the stories. They were great books. But if you want to keep people like not be exhausted and yourself not exhausted by the end of the first issue, yeah, you got to keep them. You got to keep just to row the boat a bit, and then boom, you hit them with the big stuff. And then I think that's a very smart, effective way of doing it. I think the idea that you can't be 100% all the time is incredibly true with all creative aspects. Done is better than perfect. And I think we've all been there with something like, no, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. And then, at this point, you're beholden to like a publisher's deadline now. So you're like, it's got to be done. It may not be, as crazy I want it to be, or as, whatever as you would kind of envisioned it. But, I think as you grow as an artist and as you grow as a storyteller, like you're just more confident, like, well, I've done enough. It gets the point across. It looks good. And then of course you're still going to have the panels here and there and the pages here and there. You're like, yeah, I got this one. You know, I nailed it, you know. And it's important to be able to pat yourself on the back from time to time. You know, it's not so much an ego thing as just like a self-preservation thing. To know that you're just not, honestly, yeah. You're not just treading water the whole time. You know, you're actually like, oh, I did this. This looks great. This looks awesome. I know you've worked with other people who have colored your work before. I think I saw, I might be misremembering, but maybe Marcus Jimenez did some coloring over some of your stuff before, or just for fun. I don't remember exactly.
So I think I don't know if Marcus has done it. I know HG has like colored some of my sketches before. But this book is my first time on like sequentials working with a colorist.
Yeah. And I want to ask, like, what was that kind of process like? Did you have a lot of discussions with the colors by I'm sorry if I butcher your name, Eleonora Bruni? Were there a lot of like discussions back and forth about it, or is this like you handed over the pages, they kind of like did their thing, and you're like, this works, this is good? Like how was that collaboration between? Because you know I've had, you know, not a ton, but I've had a handful of different people color me, and it's different conversations with different people. And, you know, it's gone from like super like back and forth, how are we doing this, to like, here's the pages, and I get them back and I'm like, they're done. I didn't say anything. They're done. They look great. So I'm curious to see how you know, was there much of a back and forth with that, or?
Yeah, so initially, Boom, they did sort of just pick the colorist, but they did like let me know who it was. They're like, okay, check out this person's like portfolio. Like, what do you think? Like, and they were like, hey, we've worked with Eleanor before. She's great. And then I checked out some of her stuff, and I was like, wow, I think this person has like a really, really great style. Like, it was very colorful. It was like cell shading, which is what I've been doing with my own colors anyway. So, like, just like seeing her portfolio, I was like, oh, I think this person's work is really dope. And then my editor, Elizabeth, gave the idea of like, instead of doing like, I guess like realistic colors, we wanted to go for more of like a pop shoujo vibe, like Sailor Moon, the 90s Sailor Moon. And I think just giving that sort of tidbit for Eleonora to go on. And I got some sample pages back from her, and they just looked amazing. I was like, holy shit. Nice. So, yeah, like even with little direction, she just seems to like understand like what the colors are about. And I think it looks really good with my art. I was initially really worried because I've never like drawn in a way that was colorable by other people before, because initially I would just like do like really simple line art and just like paint in all my backgrounds, but now I'm actually drawing backgrounds. I'm like learning to like ink things and, you know, separate my layers so that the colorist doesn't hate me. And now like me and Ellie, like we have a really good like back and forth going on. Like whenever she needs something, I'm always there. Whenever like I, you know, have like questions or anything, she's always there. And I think we really sort of worked out a rapport. Yeah.
That's funny to hear, the separating the layers and all that, because every colorist, you know, I think it's an important thing to mention to anyone else who's drawing comics or hasn't thought about it in a while. Like it's important to ask your colors, like, how do you like your files? Like, do you want everything layered? Do you want everything just combined? Because on Evie and the Helsings, our colorist Jason, I've talked to him several times. I'm like, what do you prefer? He's like, I don't care. It's like, all right. So, you know, and we use a flatting service for that. So like, I just do single layer TIFFs and send them off. But with the book Spend the Night that I do, like almost everything's a separate layer from everything else. So it's kind of that thing where it's like this 180, or not even 180, this is black and white comparisons of things. But I understand what you're saying about like you're not used to like drawing for someone else to color you, because you're probably thinking the whole picture. You're thinking the color as you're drawing this, and you know, like, okay, I'm not going to draw this because I'm going to paint this in later, or I'm going to do this, or, you know, I don't have to worry about like this hatching or this value here because I'm going to be coloring it in with this later. So that I hope it's been a fun thing to like start thinking about, like, okay, well, how do I approach this now with someone else is going to have to like make the color? Was there anything in the book, either this issue or upcoming issues, that the colorist did that you weren't expecting, but were like, whoa, this is awesome?
I mean, in like the first issue, like I think the lighting that she used for the actual stage and fights, I call it bisexual lighting because it's like blue, purple, and everything. But I was like that. I don't know. I thought that was a great choice. It looked really beautiful to me. But like honestly, the amount of like extra sparkles and like sunlight and like glow she added in, I really appreciated that as well because it's like so pop shoujo, and I wasn't even thinking of that vibe when I first made this book, but I'm just like completely in love with it now, and I'm just like, yes, more sparkles, more pink.
That is something I noticed with, throughout the coloring, especially the second time I was reading through the book, and that like if it was just the strict kind of cell shaded, very simple or very, you know, just not overly fussy coloring, it still would look great. But there's definitely things that the colorist is doing that is just like that 25% extra that just like kind of puts it over there. It's like the things you mentioned, like the little like streaks of sunlight, or the color. Like I especially noticed the coloring in the fight scene with all that. Like it definitely fit the vibe, the mood. It really shifted where you were at while you're reading it, like, and that's like one of the best things colorists do. And I'm saying this more for the audience as opposed to you, because you color. That the lighting and the colors just like can control so much of the mood with, you know, because the same drawing could be colored. There was, I don't know if anyone's ever done this, I'm sure they have, way back in the 90s, Wizard had a Wizard magazine for comics. They had Greg Capullo as like a guest columnist, and he would like to go over art tips and all that. And one of them was inkers. Like he was talking about different inkers, and he drew a picture. He penciled something, and he had like 10 different inkers ink it, or he did it in 10 different styles. I forget which one it was, but you saw how drastically things changed just based on who was inking it. And I'm wondering if, like, you know, I'm sure I've seen some things like that. There's like I think like a Wolverine image where someone's like using that to define like the different styles of coloring. But like to see someone have like, you know, what's like if, you know, this person colored it, this person colored it, this person colored it, just to show people like how much work is going into all that. Because as tough it is to draw the comics and do the line art and all that stuff, like I think colorists still get like underrated with how much they bring to the table. Even with just something as seemingly simple as like, no, I'm going to add a slight gradient to this, or I'm going to add this little extra pop of a glow here, and just how it complements everything. So I'm glad to see that it seems you guys are really vibing off of each other's work, and I can't wait to see what the second issue brings, because, you know, I'm sure that collaboration is just going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Another Twitter question we had is from Marcus Jimenez, who I probably thought colored some of your stuff because he always does a fantastic job, not only being an artist himself, but like coloring other people's stuff just randomly. But he has a great question here. It's like, Fel has always been a great storyteller with innovative layouts and approach to character moments. Is there one she's really excited for without spoiling it too much?
Yes, first of all, thank you, Marcus. I'm a big fan of your work. Huge inspiration to me. There is a layout that I guess in my I think in like issue 2 that I was really proud of. Issue 2 is slight spoilers, but we see one of our main characters go up against someone called Sir Reaper, who, as the name implies, is like the physical manifestation of death on a motorcycle. And we have some really fun layouts on those fight scenes. So I I told myself I give myself 2 pages, and I think those 2 pages I kind of nailed. So
Nice.
I'm very excited for people to see that. But
Nice.
I don't want to give away too much for the future issues. Some because I haven't even done layouts for some of them yet, so I don't know how they will look like. But hopefully there will still be some fun stuff later on.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And since we're on the topic of, a fight scene, we do have quite a few questions about the idea of the motorcycle jousting, but I'm realizing now we've been talking about this book for a minute in your work, but we haven't talked about what the hell it is, sir. What is this book we're talking about? And so now I toss it to you, the creator, to let us know what exactly is Sir.
Yeah, so Sir is me yelling motorcycle jousting really loudly. But what it actually is that it is a sort of a YA miniseries about the insane art of motorcycle jousting. And it's also a queer romance. It deals with our 2 protagonists, Avery and Nico. Basically, they were separated for a while because of circumstance, but then they reunite at this fancy college called Bridalham Academy. But unbeknownst to Avery, Nico, who is her long-lost lover, is involved in some shady dealings with the giant motorcycle jousting ring known as the Seismic Iron Clash Relay, which just happens to be like this fun thing that these college students do. So in order to sort of fix their relationship, Avery needs to basically go through the trials and tribulations of the motorcycle joust. And it's coming out from Boom. It's written and drawn by me, colored by the amazing Eleonora Bruni, lettered by Becca Carey, and edited by Elizabeth Bry. First issue comes out August 14th, and our FFC is July 22nd, depending on when this goes up.
Awesome. And this episode will definitely be up before then, so I'll make sure there's links to all that, so people can make sure they go order it and check it out. The motorcycle jousting concept is super interesting. And I had this question, again, another one I had this question beforehand, but fair, someone else wanted to know too. And that is, again, our friend Jared, who's putting it a little bit more harshly than I would, but I'll read his question. Also, where the fuck did motorcycle jousting come from? Because it rules super hard.
Thank you, Jared. So basically, I was obsessed with a show called Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury, which is basically about school dueling, but in giant Gundams. And I was really, really obsessed with it. At the same time, I was also obsessed with these sports animes that I was watching, and they were like insane sports animes. Like there was Birdie Wing, which is about insane anime golf. There was Skate Infinity, which is about insane anime skateboarding. And then when I realized I felt like making a YA book, I was like, what do I love? I love this crazy mecha school dueling show, and I love this crazy sports animes. What if I just made a book that combined my love of both of those things? And somehow we just got motorcycle jousting because it's kind of like an insane sport, and it's school dueling. In my head, I was like, oh, well, it's kind of like Gundam because they put on like a helmet and they like pilot things like a bike, because I can't make Gundam because it's copyright, but as a huge Gundam fan, this was like my way of making knockoff Gundam on motorcycles.
I'm not going to say that it's probably not a thing somewhere, because I think you can make up anything and there's someone somewhere who's like, oh no, there's this group of people who do this thing, crazy ass thing. But it's one of those things where it's like, why didn't I think of that? Motorcycle joust. It just sounds like so like kind of just batshit crazy that it's like, that's gotta be rife with just like awesome story potential. So kudos to you for conceptualizing it in that way and all that, because I'm definitely interested in seeing like more of these jousting fights and just how things pan out there, because it just seems it combines the craziness of like a Coliseum gladiator fight and motorcycles. And it's definitely something I think is a great launching off point for lots of awesome action scenes. Our next question is from Nakota. How much, if any, research had to be done to decide which type of motorcycle would be best suited for jousting?
So the research I did was mostly based on vibes, if I'm completely honest.
That's the best research.
Basically,
First and foremost, people, artists, if you're expecting like artists in every book to be ultra realistic with everything, like, man, sometimes we just need vibes. We just need vibes, and we just bear with us. It'll be so much better that way. Sorry to interrupt that thought you had there. Just like,
that's perfect.
I have to specify that specifically, just because being specific about a reference or something like that is important, like 25% of the time. The other times it's all vibes. So so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some thought put into it. Basically, like if you notice that all the bikes in Stir are based off dirt bikes. The reasoning is that they're in an enclosed area, and there's like it's not really like traditional line jesting where you just like charge at each other in a straight line. Like it's insane motorcycle jesting. They fly off
Hmm.
ramps. They like do really sharp turns. They do a lot of cool tricks. So I really wanted smaller bikes that were more agile that like fit the setting that they were in. And it doesn't make sense for them to have like a racing bike that can go like
Yeah,
100 kilometers an hour because they're not trying to like murder each other.
yeah,
And like those giant like cruiser Harley Davidson bikes, I thought would be like too bulky. Like you can't
yeah,
really
yeah.
go off a ramp with that. So I was like, all right, it's gonna be dirt bikes.
I really like how you also like had the bikes more personalized with like the colors and the extra, like, I don't want to spoil too much about it just because I want people to see it for themselves. But like just like the designs matching the rider and all that, I thought that was really cool. And you know, noted you rant about vibes before in reference. It's also very smart of you're thinking of like, well, agile, durable dirt bike, like that seems to be like the right thing. Because yeah, if there's a Harley in here, like they would get they would get massacred because you got no maneuverability, you can't do anything like that. And getting some sort of rocket type bike, like you're just gonna end up crashing into a wall. So, and also I think it just adds to this, like the kind of like the idea of like a dirt bike style motorcycle just adds to like this the feeling of just how kind of crazy it is. Because I I don't think there's like anyone who's like into dirt bikes who is like not just a little bit crazy in a fine normal adventurous way. I'm sure I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but like I don't think there's anyone who has a dirt bike who's just like, yeah, this is a reasonable thing for me to ride around in and do. So coaching it in with the jousters, I think is a very, very smart idea. From our bud Matthew Summo, he wants to know questions for both. I guess we could both answer this. Okay. What type of weapon would you use, and what type of motorcycle would be your steed if you were in the seismic Iron Clash roulette? Also, what would be your entrance music? You are the main guest here, so you get to go first.
I don't want to spoil any of the really fun weapons that are going to be coming out soon. Yeah, I'm trying to think what my weapon be because there are some rules in the Sur where it's like you can't just have a machete because you're not trying to kill someone, so it has to be
Yeah.
somewhat of like a somewhat sort of blunt-ish weapon. Um, Not really sure. I would probably go with like I know it's a generic answer, but like the main character's weapon, it's a claw and it has like a stick on the other end that can poke people. And the claw is quite effective, as you will see if you read the first
Hmm.
issue. So I'd probably go with the claw. In terms of the bike, I don't know. I just want something that looks cool. Like they're all just dirt bikes. As long as something is like agile and looks decent. Um, but yeah, something that I won't easily die in because I don't actually know how to ride bikes. So hopefully something that has some balance. um, but yeah, and I don't know. It would probably be like I would color it probably the Batwoman theme because black, white, and red
Hmm.
is sort of my color scheme. It's colors I like to work in. And entrance music. Ooh, that's hard. I would probably go with Haley Kiyoko's Girls Like Girls, but like an orchestral version with like lots of violin and bass.
Nice.
Something
nice.
fancy, but
Weapon. You've made excellent points with everything. I think I would probably pick something that's probably the most like Warhammer like, I guess. For some reason, whenever like topic like, oh, medieval weapons and stuff, like I'm just like fascinated by Warhammers, because everyone's like these swords or these like as much as cool swords look, or these crazy spiked blunt instruments or maces or anything like that. There's just something so like gleefully like wicked about just like big heavy hammer, you know. So probably something most like that. In terms of bikes, I don't know bikes. Like you said, it's gonna be some sort of dirt bike. Probably something with a lot of suspension, because I imagine I'm probably not gonna treat it very well. And I'm a heavier guy, so it's like I'm gonna need some. I'm gonna need it to not bottom out on me. And in terms of like entrance music, it's kind of my same answer as if I was like, whenever that prompt comes up about, what's your wrestling entrance music theme, and that's either going to be For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, or the metal version of Rock Me Amadeus by Ed Guy. And I don't know why the Rock Me Amadeus metal version speaks to me so much about being kind of like an entrance music thing. I think it's because the syllables, like you could change it to Rock Me Amadeus to, Rock Me Don Cardenas or something like that. I don't know why my brain's just like very simple subconscious thing there, but just something about that it speaks to me as my entrance music. But there you go, Matt. Thank you.
great choices.
And I think that's it for the question. So okay. Sorry. So now it's back on me to ask interesting questions. Which, oh man, we're done here.
No, you asked great questions.
Actually, you know what? I think there is one more question. I think I missed one.
This is the one I'm thinking of.
Not that one.
Okay.
Not that one. We'll ask it, but there's not quite yet. Oh, you know what? I think it's because it was okay. It's on a different social media platform, and I didn't have that one up. Sorry. Unprofessional of me clicking through social medias right now. Hold on a second here.
No, you're diligent.
Let me find it. Because it was a good question by a great writer in their own right, Frankie White. When developing a new story, what do you start with? Is it a concept, character design, or a line of dialogue? This is a question I like to ask just because I know we all hate the idea, like, where do your ideas come from? But I think asking it like in this manner is more of a, like, we all have that seed of something, even if it's something that ends up not being part of the end product. We all have that one thing that's like, oh, wait a second, and we chase that, and this story comes out of it. So what, in regards to Sir, what was that seed, you think?
So that, I think for Sir, it was basically, again, initially just like vibes of what I wanted. It's like I wanted, like a queer school dueling drama, sort of like Utena and Witch of Mercury and Revue Starlight. And then I wanted like insane sports. So those were like the initial vibes that I had. I hadn't really thought about the characters or like much of the plot. I was just like, yeah, they're going to fight and it's going to be really gay. It's probably going to be really aesthetic in some way. So that was that for Sir. In other stories, it kind of changes every time. Like sometimes I'm like really big on character. So sometimes it starts with one character who I think would look cool, and then I build a story around it. That was kind of the case with Commander Rao. I was like, she looks cool. All right, time to think of a plot.
It's really funny how that kind of works that way, where it's like you don't know when your next story idea is going to come from, and it could be literally anything. I know, speaking with some writers, that sometimes it is just like they hear one line of dialogue, and sometimes it's not a line of dialogue that anyone ever speaks, but it, like, more or less, to be quaint about it, it speaks to them, and they're like, oh wait, what is this? Who's saying this? What is this going on here? And though I haven't done much, or released much writing myself out there. Like I have plenty of concepts and scripts and pitches and stuff that I've have abandoned or half finished or whatever I get back to, that definitely all started from something different. When you're in the throes of like the creative process and since you are both the writer and the artist, is the development of the story kind of a mutual thing between those two parts of your creative mind, or is it all one big glob that's like, I'm writing and then I'm also kind of sketching, or I'm kind of like thumbnailing out this page to kind of write it before I like go back and like script it out or something like that? Is there like a consistent process for you with that, or is it just kind of whatever's coming first as you're developing?
It has gotten a lot more methodical as the more I do it. Like initially when I made Commander Row, that was a jumbled mess. I literally like, I think I had like some like point form notes on my notes app on my phone, and then I just thumbnailed it, and then I drew the whole thing, and I didn't even have a script. It wasn't until I think like 2 weeks out from sending it to the letter, I was like, shit, I need to like write some dialogue. But then because that was kind of chaotic, I've decided that the best way forward is to do things methodically. So I do, I start with an outline, and then I write the script, and then after all that checks out, then I'll move on to thumbnails. Because I am often the artist of my own stories, I do find that, there are some checks and balances involved, because I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to purposefully make myself draw a huge crowd scene where everybody is riding horses, driving cars. Like that's, I'm just not going to do that. And if I do have to do that, then I'm probably going to like put half of those horses driving cars in like black silhouettes.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like the one good or cool thing about writing or drawing for yourself, is that I can just, if I don't want to draw something, then I'm just not going to write it in. Although, to be honest, I didn't realize how hard drawing motorcycle fight scenes were going to be until I started doing them. And now I'm just like, darn you, writer me.
Why did I have to have this amazing concept? Curses. No, I can totally understand that, where it's like, I'm sure though there's times where like the writer used like, this is going to be a really complicated page to draw, and then the artist used like, I'm going to have to do it though. I kind of have to, I have to like jump on that grenade and get it done. Cause the idea of like drawing a coliseum with a bunch of people and motorcycles driving around, at some point you got to draw a coliseum with a lot of people in it, motorcycles driving around. You can only, in my own brain, I would think of like as many non-wide shots to have with that. But at some point you're like, well, no, I got to bite the bullet and do it. As you're kind of like, and also, since this is with Boom and you have an editor and all that, I'm sure, the more standard process of script, sending the script in and everyone kind of like getting their 2 cents in on that, kind of does that. Do you find like that process seems to be daunting or kind of reassuring that you're getting like that kind of sorted out a bit before you start drawing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely good to have I mean, I like, even on my own personal projects outside of publisher, it's very good to have an editor, or like a second pair of eyes. And working with Elizabeth, who is amazing and really understands the story and the vision. It's really nice to sort of have that, someone just looking over it just to make sure that you're not like going insane as you're writing and drawing this. I was really grateful that like she's kind of willing to work with my process. Basically I was like, normally I just do like thumbnails and go straight to ink. So I was like, hey, do you need to like actually see the pencils? Because I don't normally like, just for my own workflow, I like pencil and ink in the same day. So it's just like, I do like a page a day. And she's like, yeah, just show me the thumbnails and then we can go straight to inks. I don't know if you've seen my thumbnails, but they're quite potatoey, as we say. They kind of look like Lego or Minecraft people. But I think she put a lot of faith in me to like get these pages to look from potato to actual page and I have been doing my best not to give her a reason to doubt me. Yeah, I think it's working. I think it's worked out. It's worked out so far. So.
Oh, I totally know what you mean by potatoey layouts. Like mine are, I'm gearing up to go through another round of doing layouts for a book, and I'm like, just every time I tell myself like, no, you're going to be cleaner, you're going to be neater, and like the first 3 pages are like super tight, like sure I've erased things or whatever, I've cleaned them up, but they're like super tight, and then like by page 10 again, it's just like stick figure. This is where this person is. Here's this. And then, my own personal problem is, or not problem, my own personal thing is like, I'm trying to get to a point where I'm not exactly penciling the pages, but I do want my layouts to be kind of like 75% penciled, just because, one, I feel like it makes my inking go faster, even though it's a little bit more time on the front end. And also because I want to start like inking traditionally again, as opposed to just on digital. Not all the time, but like I definitely want to do like certain pages for things where I'm like, okay, this is a page I can have in my portfolio, or I can offer it as part of a Kickstarter thing or whatever, that I think is cool. It's a splash page, whatever. And I kind of want to, when you're inking traditionally, even though I started out that way, the past few years have been 90% digital. So I'm still like, I've done the thing where I'm trying to zoom in on a piece of paper, where I'm trying to like, flip the canvas, and I'm like, no, dummy, it's taped to the light board. You can't do this. There's no undo. Sure, there's plenty of whiteout, but then I gotta wait, and I am super impatient. So
I feel like
it's all with that. But it's great that you have an editor who's like, just like, yeah, that's cool. Like just show me. The trust there to have it like. Go forward. That is really cool. When you're like kind of concepting the book, sir, did you have like the ending like already in mind before you started like finishing the first issue, or was it like you scripted the first issue, then it's like, okay, what's kind of next? Like how did the breakdown of all the issues go for you when you're kind of like lining it up?
Yeah, so I tried to have everything figured out before I really started it. So like issues 1 to 5, like are in my pitch ready. Like I already had everything figured out. To be honest, I had the ending like perfectly in my head. I don't want to brag or anything, but I sent in my last issue script recently, and I got back like no notes. I was like, whoa.
Nice.
So I think the ending is one of the strongest parts of the story. That said, it wasn't like the journey of getting to that point, because I actually decided to rewrite an entire issue, like the version of that issue that I pitched, and then the one I actually ended up writing was like very different, because I realized that I think the new version like worked better, but because it was like me sort of like doing something after the fact, like I had everything figured out, and then I'm trying to replace an issue with a different story, like trying to figure out how to get that story told, even though I think it would work better for the whole story in the long run, but just trying to like stuff it in that late in the game, I think was a little hard for me, but I think we got it. And if we didn't, there's still a great ending. So just, every great show has some filler episodes that are a little there. So, but well, I think overall it's like, I tried my best to have most of it figured
out. You said every great show has their filler episodes, and the thing is though, I think the term filler has been like not given its due in terms of like what it actually does. And if it comes to like even like filler issues of comics, or filler tracks on an album, or filler episodes of a TV show, it shouldn't be viewed as a negative thing. It should be viewed as like a thing where like you're enjoying the concept of a thing. You're enjoying this band writing a song like they write a song and doing their song. This group of characters in this show just being those characters, like just existing. And what one could say, like the classic like baseball issues of like X-Men, you know, where they're sitting around playing baseball or some sort of like gathering or something, that those are quote unquote filler. But no, you're spending time with the characters. So I think, you know, in the grand scheme of things, 4 issues isn't a ton, but like wanting to have something, I'm not saying, I don't know if this is what it is, but like having something like that where it's like you're just like some part of the story where it kind of, it fills in things, you know, and it's not just expendable. It deepens the story. And that's something I am extremely guilty of trying to do a lot of. Like I have countless texts and emails to Steve about Evie and the Housings where I'm like, how about this? How about this? And it's just like, we don't have space to put in all these little character moments or things. But those are the things I think of in my head that are canon and they exist. And then it informs everything. And I kind of want to get it all out there, even though we don't have the space for it. So I respect your effort in like, I'm going to try to do this, you know, and I'm sure, you know, and I'm sure you have a trusted team behind you. I'm sure they're like, it worked. It's great. We're good to go with that. So yeah, don't, you know, if you're out there and you're thinking like, oh, is this kind of filler or whatever? Like, well, filler's a good thing. You know, it could be a good thing. You know, if you're just doing it to do it, then yeah, then maybe don't. But if you're like, no, this is going to deepen it, then take that risk, take that chance, because I'd rather read something that's trying to give me more reason to care than just trying to hit beats that they know have to hit in the story, you know? So, you know, as you said, you put in your last issue, your script for the last issue and all that. And the first issue has yet to come out, but you know, and I always ask this from everyone anyway, but even though I know it's kind of a tricky thing to ask, is there like more of the world of Sir out there, or you're like, I need a break from this, I need to go do something else after this, and then maybe I'll come back to that world, or like this is done, you know, which is fine, because having one complete story is never a bad thing, you know. There's so it is, and I know it's hard for creative to also say like never say never, but like right now, what is Fel thinking? Like I can get back to this world, or like I need a little break before I start thinking about this.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I always like to say, you know, if the world exists, there is always potential for more. That said, one of my pet peeves is I hate cliffhangers. I hate not having closure. I remember, you know, it's the nature of comics. You never know how it's gonna go, and there were a lot of comic books that I really loved that just kind of like they just stopped running for whatever reason, and I never got an ending, and I've always been traumatized over it. So for me personally, it's like every single story I needs to have like a proper ending with closure. So I think with Sir, we are gonna have like a proper ending with closure. Like if we never get another issue, I still want people to be like, yeah, that was a whole story, and still like feel satisfied with it. You know, if there is more, we'll figure it out. But I want people to feel like fulfilled and satisfied with just what we have, because I just don't want to, like, you know, leave something open like a plot end or whatever and just never explain it, and then everyone is just unhappy.
Yeah. No, I really respect that point of view, because I find that I am more drawn to stories that have, if not a definitive ending, an ending. That if I don't come back to these characters ever, the questions, or at least the vast majority of questions or things I wanted to know about what was going to happen, I know. And I think that's something that's kind of a trap some people can fall into, in thinking that I need to keep this open in case I want to come back, you know. And it's like, just, you know, I'm not going to name anything, but there's been some stories I read where I'm like, this is obviously like you're holding back what could be a really cool arc here, but it feels like they're holding back because they want to save something for later, and it's like, don't. No one has time to save anything for later. And that's one of the things I definitely wanted to do with my own work, and I'm glad to hear that's, you're not concerned with like leaving things to come back to. You know, you want to tell your story and have your ending, and you know, not every comic is the Amazing Spider-Man. It doesn't need to run for 70. Some may say Spider-Man doesn't need to run for 70 years. Uh, but, you know, your book doesn't have to go that long. I mean, look at something like Hellboy. Like, yes, it's gone on for 30 years now or whatever, but the story was moving. It has an ending. You know, there's things there. Or something like Invincible, where it was like 100, you know, 50 odd some page book issues or something like that, and it ended, you know, and that's fine, you know. And so even just something as a 4-issue miniseries, just having your ending and being confident with it, I think also speaks a lot, because, you know, people may not think about this like consciously, but you know, when there's a book like that, at least for me, like that just tells me like, okay, it gives me that extra layer of like, whatever I'm reading in this book, it's what they want to show me. It's what they intended, blah, blah, blah. And it's not something that they're going to come back. They're not leaving anything on the table. They're not being shy. They're not being coy. And that in turn for me, digs the hooks in deeper for me on things like that. Now, that's not to say there can't be great open-ended stories. Like, plenty of amazing mangas have how many that people love. And that's all well and good, but you know, that's more the outlier, I think, than what should be considered the norm. Is there something that you've read recently that, or just in your formative reading times and all that kind of like struck you as like, wow, this ended, and maybe I wasn't ready to say goodbye to it, or I wasn't ready for it to end the way it ended, but I'm glad it ended. I'm glad they're not like hanging on to this thing.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure there are. I'm trying to think of some things that I read recently that ended. But I mean, it's really old and it ended a long time ago. But like reading all the volumes of Rose of Versailles, like, I mean, that comic ran in like the 70s, and it ran for like years. But then, you know, I had such a great time reading it. It's like, you know, 5 really thick volumes, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then it ended. But it was an ending. It was a good ending, and it like really, it's a book that like really sat with me and influenced my work, and I still love to reread it all the time. And I was like, damn, this is so cool. Another long form work that also ended, but I think have since, you know, there's still more stories in it. Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore. I love that comic. It was like another massive, like 2,000 page comic. Ran for years. And like I binged through it, like I think in a month in college, because that's how much I was obsessed with it. But even after I finished it, I was like, man, that was so cool. Even though I finished it really quickly, but I'm still going to reread it over and over again, because it's like, it was such a great journey. And it's just like, I love spending time with these characters, and I'm glad that Terry Moore is still like expanding on like his little Strangers in Paradise universe, and we're still getting more, even though we had a really great ending in the original run. So, you know, even though it ends, there's always, you know, as long as the worlds exist, that you can always make more. But also, endings are great.
Yeah, it is definitely something that, you know, I feel, and I do see a lot of people going that way with things too, like, you know, having the endings, especially as more independent creators are getting more confident, and there's more outlets for people to like get their stories out there. Not everyone has to think so one-shot focused, even though there's plenty of great one-shots, mini, you know, graphic novellas, or whatever terminology we're using for something that's not quite a trade, not quite a, you know, but bigger than a comic. Not that there's plenty of great things like that for them, great ones out there, but yeah, just the idea of like just being able to like have the confidence and have the outlet to say, here's my full story, it's not compromised, and it ends. I think is a great thing, and you've taken full advantage of that with Commander Rao and We Love You, because those are 2 one-shots. But you know, if you speak to anybody who's read it, you know, it would be completely understandable if you thought it was like a 50 issue epic series, you know, because the way the story was, and just like the amount of us like world building that was within those. And you know, I'm glad you're getting a chance now to kind of flesh things out more and take some breathing room for yourself and give you a chance to spread your wings there, here and there. Is like the 4-issue format something like you want to continue exploring, or do you feel like you want to like even go further, or you want to like what like, granted you haven't I don't know if you finished drawing all the issues yet, but what, you know, not to get too far ahead of it, what's next? Like what do you feel like is like your next challenge for yourself?
So Sir is actually 5 issues. We got a fun extra issue.
I'm sorry.
No worries, yeah. But I actually originally pitched Sir as like a graphic novel in a graphic novel format. But I think Boom mostly puts out floppies, so they're like, oh, we'll just release it as like a miniseries first. I was like, okay. But I think like working in sort of bigger graphic novels is something that I want to do more in. You know, but working in miniseries, it's cool, it's fun. But also, I think, you know, something that I've learned is that it was really hard trying to fit everything in like 22 pages. And like always trying to like end the issue on page 22, and like if I needed more time for something, it's like, oh, and now I have to like sacrifice something else in the story. So I think like in the future I'd love to work more on like just graphic novels where I don't have to like cut things off after a certain amount of pages for each chapter, and I could just like tell the story. I still love the one-shot format. I like telling cool short stories, so you know, I don't know. We might go back to doing some more one-shots, maybe self-published in the future, but yeah, my focus, I think, is that I would like to make more either graphic novels or just like if there's people out there who are willing to give me like 30-page issues, then let's talk.
Nice. I'm glad to hear you say that, because as you know, before, you know, getting ready for this talk we're having, I'm you know, I've been trying to think more about like, you know, the person I'm talking to, like what do I you know, like do I see like what would be like my expectations for them. Not that my expectations matter jack of all for anything, but like just like in general, like, you know, what do I see this creator doing next, or what would be really cool to see from them next, more to be more accurate about it. And the idea of like the graphic novel, like the full length, just one big epic thing, to me, that's like, I'm like, that feels like not to insist what you should or should not do. You know, do whatever you want, because, you know, you're the best judge of what, you know, you want to do. But like in my head, I'm like, yeah, I think Fel, like if she had like just like a full on 120-page just epic thing, like I feel like that's something that would be like the next level of thing. Because, you know, 5 issues, 20 pages, that's you know, it's 100 pages of work right there. So math alone, yeah, yes, it's a bigger next level thing. But I think just in terms of like the concept of like the idea of taking something like that feels as epic as the Rowverse and now you having the experience of fleshing out over a longer scope of pages, like the idea of that then both coming together in something just like insane, it popped in my brain. So no pressure. No pressure to put out a 120-page epic graphic novel, because Don's like, yeah, I think that would be really cool if you did that.
Honestly, that's my dream. So
because, you know, I would be just as stoked as if you did another one shot, or, you know, yeah, again, Sir's not even out yet, far from done in terms of being out there and told. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, the next issues, how this story develops, because I'm just really really down for like just everything you built with it and the world. And, you know, and and you really do have a knack for like getting people emotionally invested into these characters very quickly. And it's a really great, just it's one of those like intangible things that, you know, a creator can do, that you can't really teach that type of thing. So to know that like you're getting even more support and outlets to like expand on that kind of idea is really, really cool. So congrats to all the amazing support you've had so far. I hope you feel like, you know, people are excited for the book, and people are rooting for not only the book to succeed but for Fell to succeed. And I hope that Boom is you know, being a champion for the book, as you know, as I would hope any publisher would be for a creator. And yeah, it's just been really awesome to see over the past few years, just the scope of things. Like there's so many creators I've gotten to know over the past few years, that just seeing the arc of their, either just their skill level alone improving, or just the sheer amount of opportunities they've created for themselves is really inspiring and really, really awesome. And you are definitely one among them. So once again, congrats on all that. Is there any creators now that you kind of feel that excited about, like that kind of like, wow, I can't wait to see what they do next? Because I mean, we could throw a dart and find one pretty easily in the circles we run in. But like, if you don't want to single anybody out in fear of alienating anybody else, that's fine as well. I completely understand that. We don't want to unintentionally hurt anyone's feelings here. I certainly don't want to make anyone feel left out. But if you do, and if you feel comfortable speaking on it, like, is there creators that you're excited to see what they're doing next?
Oh, see, there are so many. Like,
I mean,
so many.
someone's gonna get left out. Someone's gonna get left out, no matter how many we can list. Because I could name 10 right off the top of my head, and there's gonna be 20 more right behind them. Then I'll be like, oh no, I should have said this person too. Like, you know. So I get it. But
yeah, but I'm still gonna try and name them, because I'm gonna name them off the top of my head. But Brent Fisher. I've known them for quite a while. I still remember, like 4 years ago, they were like, here's my first comic book script that I ever wrote. Do you want to read it? I was like, oh, okay, sure. And like, I was blown away. Like this is their first comic book script, and it was like one of the best scripts that I have ever read to this date. So I definitely think like Brent, I think their writing, their work deserves like so much more opportunities and attention. They have a Kickstarter going on right now called The Unbroken with Dauntless, and it's like, I think their first really like a bigger comic book work. So I'm really excited for them. Speaking of Dauntless, I already mentioned this, but Marcus Jimenez, big fan of his work. I think he puts in like so much effort, like, writing, drawing, coloring, like running a publisher, marketing, like I don't know how he gets sleep, but apparently he does get sleep. So and also, sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, and just on topic of Marcus, the speed of how fast he draws things and gets things done. I'm like I love seeing it, but it also makes me physically angry. Like, how are you this fast?
So I've like asked him so many times. I'm like, so do you just like eat the spinach like Popeyes does, and then just like draw like 10 pages a day? Like, what's your secret? But yeah, also Jared Luan, big fan. I call him like the man, the myth, the legend. Like, I think his, I've read so many of the books by now, and like I know he's working on a new thing that he's pitching. I've only seen like one drawing of it, but it looks amazing. I'm wishing the best for him, because I think I loved Crash and Troy. I love Dryfoot. Twin Blades, like so good. And more people. Anas. Oh, I hope I don't butcher the last name. Abdullah, I think. Kill My Boyfriend, Etheris. Yes, they're like, I was in love with Etheris. It's such a beautiful, poetic one shot. And it deserves like all the praise in the world. And then Kill My Boyfriend, which is like this like murder mystery, which is like so much fun. Like, again, they're, I don't know, I like I've like talked with them. We've did like another like podcast interview where we interviewed each other, and I felt like that our processes are very similar. And I also, it's like I really resonated with his writing and his work, and where their writing comes from. So I was like, I always look forward to everything they make. I think they're like an incredible creative with incredible vision. And oh my god, there's so many other creators. Cody Okamoto, who's making Keeping Time. Like that's like one of my favorite webcomics going on right now. It's so beautiful. Cody actually like tried to give me painting lessons before I gave up. So thank you, Cody. Gosh, there's probably so many more that I'm missing, and I'm so sorry, but those are the ones.
No, yeah, and I really put you on the spot with this. So you know, if you know, friends of Fel, if you feel like, oh man, I wish you mentioned, it's on me. Like I should have given a little bit more warning on this. But all the creators you mentioned, great stuff. Like Cody, like I got to get them on the show. I've already reached out once, but it's like that was months ago, and like I need, because you know, Keeping Time just looks amazing, and the development time on that has been, you know, seeing it develop has been really cool, and now that it's out there and it's just fantastic and all that, they're doing fantastic work. Like I said, Jared, you know, I'll toss in, you know, Kyler Clodfelter out there. You know, he collaborated with Jared on Crash and Troy, which is great, and looks like Kyler got to spend like a Marvel art boot camp thing, which is awesome, because I would love to see him take on definitely some of those characters and all that. And yeah, there's just so many people, you know, half the people who ask questions, you know, Matt Summo, Frankie White, like these are all amazing creators that I feel, you know, blessed to be around and, you know, be at the very least, like privy to like their works. If they, you know, if they're so, you know, when they're kind enough to like send me an advanced PDF of something, or like even just get a chance to sit down and talk, you know, and it should be no secret, like you're one of the creators as well, and all these things. So like, yeah, it's just really, I think it's really, it's a really weird time in independent comics, but it's also really exciting because everyone who's like were like getting their first things done in the past, you know, 5 years or so, are now like getting to a point where it's like they're doing like some of the, you know, best things out there, in my opinion. And it's just nuts to be at least swimming in the same ocean as those people sometimes, and it's really cool. So thanks for humoring me with all that. So I have two quick questions before I let you go on with your evening. And first is, as I mentioned, you know, our Kyler's a great artist, and getting a chance to, you know, hopefully work on some Marvel stuff. Is there a larger mainstream IP, I guess, that you would be like, man, you know what? I don't sit up thinking later, you know, I'll sit up at night thinking about it, but like, I'd love to take a stab at this.
See, if you asked me this question a few years ago, I feel like I would have like definitive answers, because like I'm a big Batwoman fan. There's like a giant Batwoman on my wall right now. Yeah, so like I've, you know, character that I really love, I would have loved to like take a stab at writing, drawing, whatever. And I'm also like a huge X-23 fan. Or Wolverine, I think she goes by that now. Laura Kinney, yeah. Big fan. So I would have loved to like write, you know, or draw something with her in it. I think now in this current climate though, I feel like I work best when I get to have more creative freedom. I don't know what the culture is like in Marvel and DC, but you know, I feel like I wouldn't be as happy if I didn't get to like pop off. Like if I felt like I was constrained, even though I really wanted to like write these characters that I love, that if I had some kind of like really heavy like editorial constraint being like, oh, this isn't marketable, or oh, it has to like exactly be like this and be like palatable and marketable in every way. I guess I'm becoming more of like one of those like, you know, old cranky artists, like I just want to do what I want. So, you know, I'll still always love those characters. You know, I'd still love to maybe work on them on like a short stint or something. I just don't think I'd be like super like at my utmost happiest if I could work on them, but I didn't have as much freedom as I wanted to, and I felt like I was always like being, I don't know, being like breathed down on by like upper management. I don't know what the culture is like though. I've never worked for Marvel and DC,
No,
so but that's just
no,
like what I'm thinking.
yeah, I totally get that. And, you know, you're someone who's, you know, you've had complete freedom, and you've seen and felt like just the positive impact of something like that in your own work. So the idea of like, okay, going to somewhere where you could possibly be constrained a bit and all that's like a little bit more like it'd be nice, but I don't know if I want that, you know. I definitely understand that, because, you know, even in my own like wildest, you know, ideas of like, oh, what would I do if I did something like that with a big company? It'd be something like they would never go for it, because I'd want to do this crazy ass concept that would have to be non-canon, and they don't want it, and it's just never going to happen. So I just kind of put that aside for myself. I wouldn't mind drawing a Godzilla cover though. That'd be nice. Anyway, or X-23. I'm trying. My daughter's 8. I'm trying to convince her to dress up as X-23 so we could go as Wolverines, but I don't know if it's going to work out. We'll see. That would be
so cool,
like,
though. That would be so cool.
That would be like my peak dad moment, where it's just like, yes, because I showed her the pictures of Laura, and I'm like, Daddy's got a costume like that, and she's like,
the claws
maybe
will look really good on you.
Yeah, you get 2 claws. You get a couple on your feet. I don't know if we'll do that for the costume, but hey. And then there's a surprising lack of X-23 costumes, or you know, Wolverine costumes for women. So Marvel, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, come on, Marvel.
you got this awesome, you got like an awesome Wolverine in Logan, but you also got an awesome Wolverine in Laura. Like, where's the costumes for the ladies on that? I know it's probably just not a marketing thing and all that, because all the Wolverine costumes now, if you look up Wolverine costumes, it's all from the Deadpool movie coming out. It's all the bodysuits from that. So anyway, that's I'm going on a tangent here. And my last question, and you know this is coming. It's from our good bud Natasha, and from all of us, and that is, how dare you? I hope I've conveyed it enough. No, really, how dare you? How dare you?
I dared.
You dared.
Yes. Thank you, Natasha, for that wonderful question. But my answer, my answer is a question for her. How dare you, Natasha? So I don't know if people know, but I'm actually co-president of the Heathen fan club, which is the comic that Natasha made about lesbian Vikings. And yeah, I have like platinum fan club like membership stakes in the Heathen fan club. So how dare her for making this beautiful comic that inspired me like 5-6 years ago to make comic books. And now we have Sir. So if you're asking me, how dare me, the answer is how dare you, because I wouldn't have made this book without you, Natasha.
More than fair. Natasha, how dare you?
Yes.
Belle, thank you so much for coming on. I've enjoyed chatting with you once again, and I wish you all the best success with Sir. I hope it does amazing sales-wise. Everyone, please go check it out. There'll be links in the show notes below. Now is the time to let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so I am everywhere. I am on every single social media. You name it. If it was mentioned, if you don't even know about it, I am on it. So you can find me on Twitter, foulhound_. You can find me on Instagram, foul.hound. I am on Tumblr, foul-hound, I think. Literally just type foulhound on any social media. I am on every single one of them. Probably not by choice, I don't know, or if you don't hate social media, just find my website, foulhoundart.com. I also have a newsletter, it goes out once a month. And yeah, that's how you can keep up. But yeah, I am everywhere, sadly or not sadly, I don't know.
Well, I feel like everyone needs like that link tree thing just for all the social medias now, because there's, you know, like there's Twitter, I'm never calling it the other thing, Instagram, Blue Sky, Kara, Tumblr. I don't know if Hive is still a thing. Remember Artful? uh,
Oh,
just a Spoutable, Mastodon,
yeah.
Pujawudgets. I don't know, man. Like it's too much. It's too much, but we gotta, do it all, I guess. But yeah, I'll make sure there's links to as much of that as possible in the show
I
notes
do
so
have a
everyone go
link for you,
check
so
it out.
that will make life
Um,
easy.
Fel is always worth a follow on any of the platforms that I've followed her on because it's all killer, no filler, in the best sense. And then also the newsletter. The newsletter is great. I love that more people are doing newsletters because while I will admit I don't always like read all of everyone's newsletters. It's nice just like getting that in and I'm like, oh, you know what? I haven't seen for whatever dumb algorithmic purposes. I haven't seen this person's posts as much as what's going on, or it reminds me of things and all that. So I'm glad we're kind of like getting back into that a little bit. I'm sure, eventually we're all going to devolve back into forums and or I guess Discord's kind of taking that idea over a bit, but yeah, it's devolving. But again, I'm going on a tangent here. So Fel, thank you so much. I'll make sure everyone can go check it out. Please go check out Sir. This episode should be coming out. What's today? Today's the 3rd of July. So I'm sorry, I'm going to do some terrible brain math here. This will be dropping. I want to make sure people have time to go get it because you said the final order cutoff is the 22nd. So yeah, this will be out on the 12th. So you'll have 10 days to get the final order cutoff. Do it because those initial orders are so important to books, so important to retailers because it tells them what people want to read, and it really sucks that the comic book industry is like structured in a way where it's just difficult to buy a thing sometimes to support a book sometimes. But, I think we all love comics enough to where like if we have to take that extra step or two, especially for cool new independent books that are telling really fun, interesting stories, then we should definitely make that extra effort. And I'll do what I can with links to make it as easy as possible for everybody. But yeah, go check it out. Once again, thank you so much, Fel.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be on. Happy to chat with you.